Hey guys, this is just going to be a quick update because I did the video last night and I was like not sure what to do, and we have a little bit of a resolution. So I wanted to jump on here and just talk through what happened and everything. So I shared a bunch of information last night about how there was a mother that was on Facebook, and she was basically posting for a home for a kid, and there was some concern about like the channels in which she was going in, and there was all kinds of stuff that was coming out in all these different directions. And what happened was they deleted the post, they deleted the blog, they deleted their social media. And then this morning I woke up and there were multiple messages from people involved in this reaching out to me in my DMs. And I'm realizing that the situation as a whole is very complicated. And obviously it's not one that's like the first thing is like, this should never have been like a situation where you're at your limit and you're reaching out to Facebook to solve the problem. It was, in my opinion, looks like just a mess. It's an utter mess. So the biological parent, the mother, the aunt, and the sister all reached out to me. And I realized that with these kinds of situations, there are always like so many different sides to every single story. And I am not here to share any of the information they provided to me, because the reality is that's what's happening is really bad. And the circumstances are horrible. And what I've learned in the last 24 hours is that there are a lot of people that would rather circumvent the proper channels and go about things their own way, not ensuring what happens will be in the best interest of any of the other people, any of the other parties involved. It's like not using the proper channels for their own selfish reasons, because they don't want to have any prying eyes in their lives. And in situations like what happened here, proper channels need to be a part of the situation. So what happened is, after some talking to the biological aunt and the mom, they agreed that this needed to be handled with the proper authorities and not like fought out on Facebook, and not fighting about what was right or like who needs the kids and who doesn't. There's still a bunch of bickering back and forth going on here, but I think the proper authorities have now been contacted, and that's the good news. So the bigger issue here is that there is this sub world in a lot of these churches and in a lot of these fundy clubs and fundy places where they would rather do things their own way, and then getting people involved that can actually help and manage and navigate the situation. Now, from my understanding, the adoption was completely legal. So they used a court and they had home studies and there was evaluations on all of that once everything did happen. There's disagreements on whether or not this was a situation where this was something that was wanted by the bio mom, but that to me is neither here nor there. What is at play though is that because this was a situation where a family that were mere strangers found out about these kids through friends. They took kids very limited knowledge about them into their home when they already had kids. And, you know, we shouldn't be placing the safety and well-being of our children in the hands and decisions of pastors guiding families on what to do about this. The pastor goes down with them to help facilitate the trade-off and the handoff. And Like, pastors are not experts in child rearing. They're not experts in child safety, and they certainly deserve no place in facilitating and coordinating something like this. What should have been handled, the entire situation from the very get-go, was the involvement of the proper channels. And there is this subset of people that are in the fundamentalist world or in the very religious world that will take go to any means possible to not get the people involved that should be involved. And they make it seem as though it's this scary state, like this, they don't trust the state. They don't want to be with the state. And that's what I was told. Like, they don't trust the state. But you don't trust the state, but then here we are 5 years later, and you're in a situation that is similar to what would happen in the so-called state, but with less resources and less help. And it's messy. And we need to stop thinking about, like, the system is flawed, but the system is more equipped to dealing with very complicated children and complicated situations than private citizens that have no training, no experience with the situation, nothing. I think if you have anyone in your life that's considering doing this, don't go this route, because now there's these kids that are like, you've got an adoptive mom that is on Facebook advocating for someone to take him. That's not her. So what should have happened is going through an agency or through the proper channels through CPS or DHS, not through advertising on Facebook. Even if you're at your limit, advertising a child on Facebook in this manner makes it look like you are literally selling a kid. It makes it look like the kid is a commodity, and it makes it look like you're passing off issues from one family to the next. And at the end of the day, if you can't handle it and you think that giving it away to someone else is going to somehow fix the situation, I really don't think that's the process at all in this situation. So after a lot of talking today, I finally was able to nudge people to make the phone calls that they needed to make. And apparently things are going to be looked into by the proper authorities. And that's really what we should be encouraging and advocating for in these kinds of situations. It's not circumventing these channels because you don't want to deal with them and you're afraid that what you might have to face because of it, or what the child might face, and then somehow deciding that you're making the best decisions when clearly the fact that you made the decision to adopt the child wasn't a good decision to begin with, or it was a misguided decision, and now you want to give up. And listen, adoptions fail all the time, and they are messy at times because kids can come from really tough backgrounds, and nobody is discounting that. And you certainly don't want a child to be in a situation where, because of their background, it causes any undue issues with the kids that you have. And because of that, you want the safety for all the parties involved. You want your child safe, you want this child safe, and all the kids need to be safe. And if you're going to try to solve the problem by not using the proper channels, you're setting up that child for another recipe for disaster and ending up with someone else that may or may not be equipped to dealing with this. So I believe that for now, we may have people looking into it, or that are going to investigate, at least doing like a welfare check of some magnitude. Yeah, the issue isn't the adoption failing for me. The issue is it's posting the kid on Facebook. That's the problem. Adoptions fail all the time. And I don't think we don't want to like shame adoptive parents that have had to make these really tough choices. And second chances for kids can really change their lives when they're placed with the right family. But the problem is that we need to stop talking about using social media to find those options. Thank you, Catherine. You are welcome, Christina. So, and so at the end of the day, it sounds like the biological aunt said that they made a call. Did the mom lose her child and keep having kids? Can you confirm? I don't think she actually has the 3 daughters that she, I'm beyond amazed and on top of this and got others to contact the authorities. Imagining trusting Facebook over the state. Okay. It's very difficult to cover without revealing a lot of information. And I don't want to reveal any information. I want to respect the privacy of the kids. So, I can show you some stats on adoption if that would help. Let's look at that. So let's see. It says that 10 to 20% fail. So according to adoptivefamilies.com, it says that let's see, sorry. Statistics indicate that about 10% of the adoptions disrupt failed between placement and finalization, and between 1 or 3% are dissolved, fail after finalization because of problems that the adoptive parents are not equipped to support. So it's more common for the situations that it's more common for the disruption to happen when they're literally like in the process of adopting than it is to disrupt after the fact. It says failures are far more likely to occur in older children adoptions. Social workers estimate that the fewer than 1% of infant adoptions fail, while 30% of adoptions of teenagers fail. And if you're adopting a teenager or preteen lineup, expect psychological support for yourself and the child before homecoming. So obviously when you adopt an older kid, you are okay. Well, I'm reading right off of a website. This one is from today.com. It says a 2010 study of U.S. adoption practices conducted at the University of Minnesota in Hennepin County found that between 6 to 11% of all adoptions are disrupted before they are finalized. For children older than 3, disruption rates range between 10 to 16%. For teens, it may be up as high as 24% for 1 in 4 adoptions. And that's directly from today.com. So obviously that's all I can share is so they didn't, she gave away, like all the kids were placed. 3 of the kids I'm told were placed with her sister, and her sister gave those kids were returned to her once everything got settled and the boys were not returned. And that's a dispute between the mom, the bio mom, and the family. And I don't want to get into like the issues of like what happened there. Like, honestly, honestly, the ones that fail prior to finalization are due to birth family changing their mind and deciding to parent, or a birth family coming forward. The ones after finalization is what you are in need. So no, these ones were for older kids. 6 to 11, it says 6 to 11% for children older than 3. Disruption rates are between 10 to 16%. So that's according to today.com. All right, so that's what I've got for today. I'm not a counselor, nope, and I'm certainly not an expert. What I am is I don't want kids to be spending a lot of time in situations like this and using Facebook to promote, their needs. So what we're going to do is, yes, there's a bunch of people that joined. So I was told that, thank you for your super chat. I was told that okay, first of all, I don't know about the GoFundMe or anything like that. I did not promote that. So I'm definitely not advocating for that. I was told that I told them to contact the proper channels, and there was a social worker that was like in the comments talking about like not bypassing the proper channels, trying to get through to these people to stop fighting about what was going on. But I would say at the end of the day, there seems to be a resolution. The proper channels were involved. This was a public post that was being shared, and I was certainly not the first one to step in. And honestly, the bigger issue here is that we need to talk about not so much this specific situation, but rather the whole second-hand adoption issues, and not going through the proper channels and using Facebook and these online groups as a way to facilitate things without using the proper methods. And it's a lot. And we really should be advocating to families that they not bypass that. There's way more situations like this on Facebook. In fact, there are groups on Facebook that exist to rehouse children. There are entire Facebook groups called Secondhand Adoption, where families trade kids like this, which is really, really scary, especially when you think about how these kids, they are effectively just talking to strangers, and all they're doing is handing over a power of attorney. So you have like kids that are just being handed off to other strangers with simple, like, I give you the rights to this child, without any social workers involved. And so that's the bigger issue, is that we need to make sure that we are trying to advocate against that. We need federal laws to protect this. We need consistent laws across the country to deal with these situations. We need second chance adoptions to be using the proper channels like agencies. And an agency would be a better, even if they used an agency would be better than going onto Facebook. And yes, there are multiple Facebook groups right now that exist where they basically just are strangers posting ads, and the kids have little price tags next to them. And it's like, take this kid, or we need to remove this kid. And all of these people are doing this because they don't want to deal with the agencies. They don't want to deal with the oversight. They don't want to deal with CPS. And that should be the bigger conversation, is why are we avoiding the proper channels in all aspects? Why was the family in the situation avoiding the proper channels? If the mother was concerned at that time, the bio mom, if her kids could not be cared for, yes, she trusted a stranger, but she also should have been using the proper channels. And that's the biggest thing for everyone involved. They didn't use the proper channels the first time, and they're trying to circumvent the proper channels the second time. And all that's going to happen is that these kids are just going to keep getting passed around. And they're so afraid of foster care, but yet they're doing the exact same thing with less eyes holding them accountable. So no adoptive parent is skilled to properly vet people or have them go through any sort of testing. You really do have to it's the same route that Micah took. And that's the reason why it's a problem, is because Micah Stauffer used the same route. She went through these groups that helped her find a family, and the kids end up getting moved from place to place. And even though lawyers happen and they are technically legal adoptions, they don't always end up with the proper services. So it's a big problem. They've done tons of there was a huge study. There was a huge article done about this 5 or 6 years ago about the unregulated adoption side of things. And I think it was through, if you want to have an understanding who did it, let me tell you. Reuters. So Reuters did an entire thing, and it was called The Child Exchange, and it was called Inside America's Underground Market for Adopted Children. And this is how it's done. They market them on Facebook, and parents are handing things over with a power of attorney, and it ends up putting the kids into situations where they're placed with families that are not necessarily the best suited. And obviously there was a legal adoption on the tail end of this, but the family had to have known by that point what was happening with this child, and they still went through with it. And now to give up at this point, it just seems really weird to me. And knowing that there was all of these issues to begin with, you just need to start to think about, I will put a link so that you can read about this underground market, because this is the bigger issue. And this is why families think they can do this, because it's become such an underground issue, and it's commonly done with families that are either super religious and not trusting of the government, or they are trying to hide things. Trafficking is involved in this, serious kinds of trafficking. So we just should be very mindful. So as I'm told again that they told me that they reached out to CPS this afternoon. I don't know if that's true or not, but they claim that they did file a report, and so hopefully this will be handled. But long story short, we need to adoptions do disrupt. There's lots of issues that come with it. Advertising your kid on Facebook is not the right way to go. All right, I'm going to get back to my normally scheduled content, and I want to thank you guys for being here. Kira, thank you for joining and becoming a member. If you have any comments, questions, or concern, or have a story to share of your own, make sure you leave me some comments, and I'll be back in a little while with more. Bye-bye.